Hey everyone, Adrian here. Welcome to the Conversations with Adrian podcast. Today I'm joined by Tiziano Sguerso. Tiziano, thank you so much for being on the show.
Adrian, thank you for having me.
Listen, man, you've got an awesome name. I just want to tell you, and your accent, I love. It's just such a beautiful ring to it. I'm sure every woman melts every time they hear your voice.
Appreciate it, buddy. Yes, pretty Italian standard accent, and the name is from Florence. It's an ancient, old painter, quite famous in Italy, and my
Lovely.
parents has
That's
chosen
it.
it.
So you're originally from Florence, is that right?
No, I'm originally from Savona. It's 3 hours from Florence.
Savona. Okay, whereabouts is that in Italy?
Is northwest,
Okay.
about half an hour from the border to France.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Nice. My dad is from Bagnara in Calabria.
Oh, lovely. My mom, she's from Calabria.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's
There you
right.
go. My mum is from Cootamundra, so she's born in the west, deep into the Australian bush, and my dad is deep into the south of Italy. So yeah, it's great to have that sort of heritage and obviously go back there as well and have that experience with I went to my dad's family home. So his sisters were still, my nonno's sisters were still living in their father's house. Would you believe?
Oh, wow. Lovely, lovely. Bagnara Calabria is quite known, Adrian? It's quite known. It's a nice place, apparently. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been, but I heard
Oh,
about it.
really? Look, I couldn't tell you whether it's known or not, but I obviously was drawn to it because I have family on my nonna's side and on my nonna's side. They both live in the same village, yeah. So it was just a brilliant experience for me to see my father's heritage and where he grew up and the township and just some of the experiences. There's a one thing that stood out in my mind apart from the beautiful scenery is there's a lady that used to sing, like shout from the rooftops in a loud voice and used to pull a trailer along with fish on the back. And so, my Italian's not great. I know all the swear words and things like that, but she was, pulling pulling the trailer along with the fish on the back and yelling out, like obviously like come and get your fish and all this kind of stuff and selling it in the streets. And it was just like, what a memory. It was unbelievable.
There's a lot of tradition, Adrian, in South Italy, and it is really nice. Like, if you want to really grasp some Italian traditions, South Italy is definitely the place to be. Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely less commercialized from the north.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
when I went to Tuscany and Rome and Venice and things like that, it's obviously more commercialized and yeah, those sorts of things. So, yeah. How long have you been in Australia for?
10 years.
Really?
I
Lovely.
just celebrated, Adrian, the 2nd of December, which tells me it's 2 days ago, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, 3 days ago.
Yeah.
So it's just 10 years that I've firstly landed in beautiful Australia, and it's been a celebration. Yes.
Fantastic. Tiziano, I'd love to hear more of your story. I know I've listened to a couple of podcasts that you've been on already, and I discovered you through Instagram and the family constellations and things like that, which I definitely want to talk about. But I think it'd be lovely to hear a part of your story in terms of coming to Australia, because I found that quite interesting in terms of your upbringing and certain things like that. Can you share with me a couple of things like why did you move to Australia?
100%. I would be happy to. So I had a pretty rough upbringing, Adrian, as you
Mm.
probably heard from other podcasts. I got in trouble pretty early in life, like 14, 15. I was already on the street. I've been stabbed. I've been to jail. I had a lot of issue in terms of that. What took me out of that kind of life was fighting professionally. So I started to fight professionally as a kickboxer. I fought some few big name in when I was pretty young, so it got me out to make a career out of that. Eventually, when I was 21, I got into depression. I started to be depressed for years and I stopped fighting. Sometimes I was trying to get back into it, but I was suffering anxiety. Also, the border borderline life that I was having, that was definitely not helping me. Until the age of 25, when I decided to leave Italy, I felt, like I just couldn't make anything out of criminality or out of, having that kind of life. So I decided to jump in Australia, eventually jump out of Italy, fly out of Italy. And Australia just came in my mind. We were watching a movie with a friend of mine, and one of the actor, Manu Bennett, is from New Zealand. So we decided to, let's go to Australia. Like I was fascinated about that. So I came to Australia, and eventually I landed here the 2nd of December 2013, just a few days after my grandmother passed, which was, let's say, the person who I've grown up with in my childhood. And I started a new life, Adrian. I eventually, obviously, at the beginning, my English was, I haven't had any school education at the time, and my English was pretty much 1 to 0, 0 to 1. So I eventually got back into what I was good at, fighting. So I started to go in a Muay Thai gym. I started to become a trainer there, to fight again. And I've been a fighter for, again, another 4 or 5 years, until I got into just teaching Muay Thai, teaching kickboxing. Eventually, one of my dreams came true. And that dream was to become a trainer of famous people in Sydney. And that was actually what I became. I became the private trainer of some famous people, actors, or people that they got on TV. They took me on TV with them. So it was a beautiful experience. Until 2016, by the end, where I came across what I do today, or my since 6-7 years, which is family constellations, from one way to another.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear the transition. So firstly, I'm very curious as to what got you into fighting, and also how that sort of led you astray in terms of like going to jail and things like that. You said you've already mentioned a life of criminality or something to that effect. So can you talk to that a bit more?
100%. Look, the area that I grown up, Adrian, which is called Savona, at the time was the 7th city in Italy for criminality. Very small town, but everybody from South Italy. So if you want to be loved in the city where I used to live, Savona, you gotta kick, you gotta punch, you gotta sell drug, you gotta sell guns, you gotta do all these kind of things if you want to be part of the crew, So I got into what everybody got into. Not that I did anything special. For me, it was actually my daily life, because everybody was doing that. Everybody was getting stabbed. Everybody was stabbing someone else. Everybody was selling drugs, doing big stuff. So I just got into what everybody was doing. It nothing special, like literally nothing special. So in order to be loved, as a protection mechanism, every child seek to belong to the group, and I wanted to belong. So I did exactly what everybody else was doing. And eventually that led me to big experience. Stabbing, some of my friends died. Some of my friends actually died in jail. I've seen pretty much everything, I would say, there's been a part of me, Adrian, that after the 21st of my birthday, when I got into depression, I started to really be ashamed of what I've gone through, what I've done even, until I actually finally fully accepted. And I understood that there was a part of me that, wanted to protect himself, wanted to belong. I've done some things that, not that I'm ashamed of, I'm ashamed to speak about it, because obviously if I look at the eyes of today as Tiziano 35, they're horrible, but that was a part of my life, that was a part of me, and I learned to love that part of me as well, Adrian. I wouldn't be where I am if I wouldn't have gone through that.
Yeah. What sent you into depression?
I feel what sent me into depression, Adrian, was my soul. My soul eventually told me, this is not who you are. This is who you pretending to be. This is who you want to be in order to survive. But this is not who you are, because you are a child full of love, despite the horrible divorce of your parents, despite your father being violent with your mother betraying your father. Despite all of those things, you have a lot of love. and it gives me goosebumps to tell you. And
Wow.
that's exactly what I am. That's what I'm doing today. That's why what I'm doing, I always say it is on another level, because I do that without judgment. It could come to me a person who has been a rapist, a pedophile, anything, any terms that are horrible, and I would look at him at the same eyes that I look at myself with love. And I wouldn't judge him, and I wouldn't judge them. I would look at them and I would understand there is a wider picture behind them and the reason why they do such a thing.
Cool.
And depression, Adrian, I felt it came for that reason, but more consciously speaking, like, you know, me and you like that, it was all the things that I've done eventually came to knock on my door. All the violence that I've used on other people, or the things that I've done on other people, came to knock on my door, and I started to be afraid, hey, someone is going to do this to me. Literally, someone is going to do this to me. And I had situation that it was like life and death, literally. And life told me, this is who you are. This is what you have done. I show you who you are.
The karma's a real thing, huh? I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to reap what you sow.
You're so right. You know, like, you're so right. I feel, you know, I couldn't blame life to say, oh, I say life came to me and say, this is who you are. This is who you have been. I show you what you have done to others. And that was not nice.
Also, Tiziano, I think like the message that I got from you there is life also says, is this who you want to become?
Yeah.
Like it's almost like I've had experiences like that in my own life where you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, is this the potential that you're realizing? Is this it? You know, it's almost like a disgust. Is this the level that you want to achieve? Like, you're so much better than this. Is this what you signed up for? Because this is such a low bar. You know, it was kind of like a moment of appreciating, or at least appreciating how much of my potential that I wasn't truly letting out to the world. And I was sort of, you know, giving this version of Adrian that was a very low version of what my fullest potential is. So I almost looked at it upon myself as disgust and shame, and almost like a hatred towards what I've unconsciously signed up for without realizing this is how far I've gone into the type of version of myself that I never thought I would be down this path. Does that relate to you?
Spot on. Doesn't relate. Spot on, because it just, you know, if you vibe where you want to vibe, Adrian. Let's say if you and I, we vibe like today in a conversation where we can motivate other, we vibe at this frequency, high as 9, 10, 11, whatever we want to vibe. If you and I, we're going to the bar and we organize like to rob a bank or something like that, we're going to vibe here, 1, 2, 3, and that's what we attract to us. So I was attracting situation where maybe I made $20,000 on some sort of dodgy stuff, and someone would come and steal in my house because they knew I was doing those kind of things and steal diamonds. So I literally have gone through all those horrible things. Yeah. You name it and I tell you.
Yeah, it's probably why you've evolved so quickly, though, Tiziano. Like, you're at 35, you're 10 years younger than me. So I think life has taught you some really tough lessons straight up. And it sounds also like with your parents, obviously either weren't around or weren't present, or you weren't getting the kind of love and attention, value, needs, you know, met from them, but you sought that out in the people that you were hanging around in terms of looking for guidance, leadership, to be belong to something, you know, those sorts of things as well. That's obviously a part of your calling to the family constellations and things that you're doing now.
Spot on again, Adrian, because when my mom and my dad split, my dad became extremely violent with my mom, like physically violent. I was there, I was observing everything. I was hiding, I was crying, I was screaming. And eventually my mom took me away from my dad. So I didn't have my dad for at least 5 or 6 years. Like, not even like figuratively, like not even look at him. And the few times that I met him on the street with my mom, he was spitting on us. So literally physically spitting. So I was looking for the authority figure, for the leadership out of my mates. And eventually I was 15, 16, and I was going out, Adrian, with people who were 30, 35. 37, people who have already done 5, 7, 10 years of jail, people who have committed murder. So I was seeking leadership, guidance from someone who was absent of guidance as well. Eventually, through family constellation, I observed that the guidance I was seeking, it was my father. But, the funny thing, Adrian, about that the person who I'm closest to today, as all over the world, is my father. We are literally one, my father and I. We have such a strong bond. Yes, such a strong bond. I don't know if anybody else would have such a strong bond with their father. I'm like so bonded with him.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That will definitely explore. I'm interested to hear from your perspective. So you've come from Italy, which was obviously, as you described, it's a very rough neighborhood. You had to almost, it was a kill or be killed type of environment, which I think is probably part of the reason why you've led to not only how to hurt other people, but to protect yourself at the same time. So the fighting, you've nurtured a skill there in terms of just something that you're very good at. But coming into Australia, the transition from 2013 to when you got into Australia, I think just looking back at the kind of cycles of whether it be financial or political or those sorts of things. So you would have gone through a fairly decent time in Australia. You're living in Sydney. You've got the sun, the beautiful waves, and the environment and the fast-paced world. You've gone into Muay Thai. You're teaching celebrities and well-known people and things like that. But then in the last couple of years, you would have experienced the pandemic. I mean, obviously that's not exclusive to Australia, but it's a worldwide thing. So how have you navigated through a lot of the transitioning from that type of life and lifestyle in Italy through to Australia? Because Australia is very cruisy, very sort of laid back. Like you're already saying words like spot on and things like that. You've got Australian, colloquialisms seeping into your beautiful Italian accent.
I am, Adrian. Yeah, let me tell you about this because there's quite an interesting story in that, which actually I'm writing in my book, which will come out eventually 2024 by the end. Mm-hmm. So, came to Australia. I came literally with money made out of drug dealing. I literally came with 10,000 euro with money made out of drug dealing. I still have those money. People who own me from all the deal in Italy, and they will owe me another 10 grand, and eventually I left it. But I came here, I started to do personal training. As soon as I arrived, I didn't have any English background. So I literally delivered pizza for 6-7 months. And for me, it was a big thing, Adrian, because growing up with those easy money to go and make money legally and also humbly, it was already a big step for me. Eventually, I got into the gym, and the gym brought me up. If I gotta be honest with you, I never really had financial issue in life because I was always like switched on. For as much as I was doing it out of criminality, I was always switched on. And I made good money from pretty much the start. Like I was surviving well to be Italian, to be here. I was working in a gym where the owner was Italian. My skills were good. I was a good fighter. I'm still a good fighter. Like I have good skills. But when I did the next step is when I actually started to get into those celebrities. One pulling another bring me to the radio, another bring me to the TV, another advertise me on, oh, my trainer is blah, blah, blah. Also I got out in some picture out of paparazzi picture with some of the celebrities. So, I got out a bit of those kind of wave, let's say. Eventually, I opened a company called Leone Australia, and I was importing boxing gears from Italy to Australia. Few years went really well, and it went really down about 2017. And I gone with my investor pretty much down 120,000 euro. So we were booming at the beginning, and then eventually things went down. A few people wanted to buy, didn't buy. I bought too much stuff. So I wasn't great in that way. So I went down under in 120,000 euro. And for a few years was a bit difficult there as well. For as much as I was making good money as a personal trainer, the business wasn't flowing really well. pandemic has been the most amazing moment for me, Adrian. Financially, and because I stepped fully in what I do now. So eventually I got the help from the government to cover up that debt. And also when I've done a transition into family constellation, I started to click in right away because it was a new thing here. I was really good at doing it. Not many were doing it at the time, still not many. So financially, eventually I got back on track. And over the last 3-4 years, I could say that my financial situation is really good. I feel I'm in a great spot. And eventually, Australia taught me a lot of things, but also primarily the difference with Italy, economy is good. In Italy, things are a bit dodgy, the tax and this and that. Here, I'm in a straight line. I pay everything. I'm good at everything. I'm good with the government. I'm good with everything. I actually literally go back into a good authority figure, understanding. I respect authority. Everything works well. So thumbs up for
very good.
Australia.
It's interesting you say you respect authority. I would have thought that someone like you would not take orders lightly from authority.
I didn't, and I paid it. I paid it really badly. I promise you that I paid it really badly. And people, when they see me, I have 2 big guns inked on my chest. So people think that I'm a big, stuff like personality and this and that. But I respect my father now, and authority is the father figure. So I respect authority. I respect everything that I don't complain. Life is good. Australia respect everything. Rules. Obviously, Adrian, when things don't click to me, like I would say, no, I don't like it. I don't accept it. I don't feel I need it. But I don't go against it. Like, for example, a big topic was the vaccination stuff during the COVID. And, for as much as I wasn't okay with it and I didn't take it, but I wasn't against it. Like, if people wanted to take it, like, I was okay, because everybody is free of choice, like, if you want to take it, you take it. If you don't want to take it, I don't judge you. And I wasn't against the government. I do my own things. I'm blessed that I don't work for anybody. I work for myself, so I can choose. So I've chosen not to take it, but I never judged who took it. My partner, my ex-partner took it, never had a problem with it.
Yeah. Did you feel judged for not taking it?
Sometimes, Adrian, but as you can see, I'm a good talker. I'm good at explaining things. So, it's part of my job. So nobody ever attacked me. A lot of people, they say, oh, they attacked me, they this and that. They didn't. Yeah. I didn't feel attacked. I felt okay, and still as today.
I think that attitude that you have is excellent. I first personally got challenged a lot, but I think from my perspective, I really took a stance against it. And I was the person that was mostly on the front line saying, I respect your decision to get it or not. I just don't like being told that I have to get it in order to work. And so, unlike you, during the COVID period, like, I lost everything. So it's one of those things for me that from a financial standpoint, like, it's not that it caused, also with relationships, it didn't cause the demise of my marriage, but it was certainly one of the moments where I had time to sort of reflect on, when we stopped work, I had time to reflect on the holes in my armor and the things that were missing. And there was a couple of things that were catalysts towards having different values and different views, and being so out of alignment with somebody else that it just become frighteningly obvious, despite previous situations where we had difficulties and things like that, which is a part of any relationship. But it felt like it kind of worked through it. But it was at that moment where it made me count my cards again and say, you know what, this is something that I think, in terms of me vibrating at a level where I'm in alignment and congruent with my values and belief systems, I need to draw a line in the sand. And so that to me was a critical growth point in my life in terms of spiritual growth, because I stuck my neck out and I kept it out there and still keep it out there for anyone to come along and ridicule and shame and ostracize me in any way, shape, or form. But I feel like in this truth that I am expressing myself now is I've never been more at home and more at peace with everything that's going on. And so and financially, lost the business. My coaching business took a backward step because at that time I was coaching business owners. And so a lot of the businesses shut down. Obviously, that's a lot of business went through. I had an indoor skate park that got closed down for 9 months in total. So it was very difficult to bounce back from that, and lost everything. So like I think everyone's perspective, obviously in their own shoes, is going to be different. But I definitely feel that approach of just respecting, if everyone had that approach of respecting you for your decisions and respecting mine for my decisions and not held anything against each other either way, would have made life a lot easier. I think the overarching thing that I'm trying to express is that the most concerning part of the pandemic was the fact that tyranny was in control of, from a political standpoint, all those sorts of things. Like, to be told that you cannot work unless you have this thing, or you cannot employ anyone unless they have it, like that to me was actually the most frightening time of my life.
Adrian, I totally respect that, and I also feel it. Look, I do event all around Australia, and this topic always come about. Just not even a month ago in Kurrumbin, I had a big event. There were 25 people in. 6 or 7 of them, they were ex-medical doctor, and they started to attack the medical system. But in order for me to bring healing to them, I need to show to them another perspective. So what I did, what I brought to them is, when you sign up as a medical doctor, you wanted to help. And I actually made all the room clap at them and say to them, thank you for what you have done to us. Now you don't reflect anymore that kind of life, so you can live it. But in order for me to help people, I also need to show to them the bright part, the bright side of it. And as I said before, respectfully, I was one of the lucky that I thrived during COVID. Like, for me, COVID, Adrian, I gotta be very honest, it was one of the best moments. As far as now is as good as, but it was great financially, particularly because I was helping others. But I could not help others if I stand on right or left. I feel the outside world, Adrian, is expressing our inner world. So my inner world at the time, because I made big peace with my father, was peaceful. I was in peace with my mother. I was in peace with my father, with my family. So I had my family with me, and both of them, we are the only 3 in all of our family that we didn't take the vaccine. So they decided not to take it as well. And we had all of our family against them, not to me, because I've always been the loner, I've been always the black sheep. Mm-hmm. But yeah, as I said, the outside world is always a reflection of the inner world. And a lot of people, Adrian, they went through hard time over COVID, but eventually they got out of it greater, more enchanted spiritually, more spiritually aware, self-developed, and on and on. So it was a contraction, but it brought an expansion.
I agree with that 100%. I think when I coach my clients now, so a large part of that spiritual growth led me to leaning into helping people with their values, with their belief systems, with their self-sabotaging habits, and living a life congruent to this version of themselves that they want to express fully and unapologetically in this world. So, but for me, though, I think a large part of the population, and including myself, it's almost like we had a PTSD from the pandemic, because a lot of my core wounds come out in that period. And like you were saying before, the way that I expressed myself, on one moment I was sort of flying the flag and carrying the torch for making a stand for business owners and for humanity, and flying that flag. On the other side of it, I got very angry, right? Like the amount of anger and rage and worry and fear and fear of the unknown, fear of being exposed, fear of having someone knock on my doorstep and take my kids, and all of this sort of very dark, heavy energy. I was getting sick, I was getting injured, I was tearing muscles, like all sorts of things like that. And it was all of those shadow versions of myself, shadow parts of myself, the darker side, is what I had to work through in order to get to the place that I am now, which is very peaceful. And so I give the example in my coaching where a part of me always wanted attention, and I always wanted company. If I was going to go for a coffee or head out somewhere, I would call a friend. I would work through my phone list. If they weren't available, Tiziano wasn't available, I would call somebody else. If they weren't available, I'd call someone else, because I just wanted to go with someone else and just have their time with them, or have the attention and things like that. That's why a large part of my work life, I was kind of like in business and receiving all the notoriety and leadership on that side. With my 3 children, it was the same thing. Every time I come home like a little puppy, they would come to the door, they would greet me, they would be so happy to see me if I left for 5 minutes and come back. And so I would lose myself in that attention. But when I was separated and ostracized and casted aside from society, separated from my ex-wife and things like that, like, in 20 years of marriage, mind you. So it was kind of a big let go, a big separation, a big a death of many egos, I guess, right? But then I was forced to be alone. So I was forced to be by myself. And I would be in cafes, or I'd go to restaurants, or I'd just be eating by myself, having a coffee on my own for hours. And I would meditate, and I would ponder, and I would cry, and I would work through emotions, and I would, release these trapped feelings of fear and worry and anxiety and depression and inhibitions and shame and fear and guilt and worry and, all those sorts of things, But to the end, it gave me peace, because I can now sit by myself for hours, and I actually enjoy having time by myself. It allows me to recharge, and it allows me to center myself. It allows me to, be in the limelight here, but then go back and recharge and boost my batteries, and then go back out to the world and give more of myself, and then come back and recharge again, So it's definitely been a spiritual growth like nothing I've ever experienced in my lifetime.
I hear, brother, when you say, which is a quite of a powerful understanding in bringing to conscious awareness, you peel some layer of yourself, and you went to see some deeper part of yourself where you needed to be alone in order to see them. Like, I spend a lot of time alone. For me, it's the opposite way. So when I'm in company, I can actually explore different layers of myself, because I spend a lot of time by myself. But from what you're saying, I hear you spend a lot of time with other people, but you needed to go by yourself so you could explore other part of yourself, add spiritual growth, self-development. For me, it's the opposite. I'm a loner, and I need and I sometimes need to force myself to be in company. Despite I'm a good talker, I'm friendly and this and that, but I tend to spend a lot of time by myself. So COVID was literally very good time for me. But everybody, I feel everybody got the medicine that they needed. So at the time I got the medicine I needed, you got the medicine you needed. And I always say to my clients, to everybody, the universe, love, call it God, whatever you like, moves through contraction and expansion. Every time there is a contraction, there is an expansion. So you need to go through dark, hard time in order to expand and see the light. This is how I see life. And that's perhaps my experience.
I think you're absolutely right. And in terms of like everyone talks about the great reset and those sorts of connotations towards a governmental control and one world government and all those sorts of things. But in my mind, I saw a great awakening. And I think that there are so many people like yourself that are coming into my peripherals all the time. So I'm attracting and gravitating towards individuals that really appreciate the similar views and the vibrations and the type of world that we want to create for the future. And so it's almost a massive shift in energy and frequency and vibration. I can see a lot of people that come to me now, particularly from a coaching perspective. We are similar. We have gone through similar life paths. And I can speak from my own experience, which is where you're coming from, because like that, I think that's the best type of coach. The best type of coach is to say, if I want business advice, I go to someone in business that's been in business for a while, that has won and lost, who's hired people, lost people, who's had terrible employees and bad money problems and all those sorts of things, and thrived at the same time. I want to hear from their personal experience in life. And so the come from that you would have, and I do as well, is that I've come from lived experience, so I can now help these people navigate themselves into the future. But I feel like that shift that you're talking about, that expansion and contraction, is probably the theme of the last 3 years. You have to have a death in order to have a birth, and I think that that's kind of where this world is heading to. But would you agree with the people that you're coaching? There's almost like I've got 1 foot on that camp and I've got 1 foot on this camp. So I've got this old version of the world, which I'm trying to desperately pull away from. But this new version is, I don't know, it's almost like it's not whole and complete just as yet. It's not created to the version that I feel like I can step into. We've got to almost dance on both sides. Does that make sense to you?
It does perfectly make sense. And I also would like to add something to it, which resonates with me. I feel, Adrian, we cannot deny the past. If we deny the past, we cannot fully move into the future. I always say this, and I always experience this by embodiment with my clients and myself. So if I accept the old part of me, I can move to the new part of me. If I accept the old face of the world, I can move into the new face of the world. But if I reject and blame and I complain about the old part of the world, I cannot detach from it. This works in resonance with family constellation. If I don't fully accept my parents, I cannot fully detach from them. But if I do accept my parents, even for the horrible things that happen, for example, to me, from you, I just took my life. From where I can say that, I can fully detach. So I don't have 1 foot on that past. I have both feet on the future, but Adrian, big time, as you said, I still look at the past and I learn from it and I acknowledge it. So I can be a big light for my clients and I can say, hey, this is where I am. For example, you, hey, this is where I am. Adrian, this is where I am now. So I can show you the path to come to me. I'm a light for you. I'm grounded. I can show you the path. I can show you the light. And it's up to you if you want to take it or how you feel it. But I can be here, grounded, solid, so you can come towards where I am and perhaps we can walk this path together.
It's almost like, Tiziano, that, for example, you are building a foundation of the future. And in order to have the bricks, in order to build the house that you want to live in, you need to educate, help, show the light, the pathway to your place, right? And so the more people that come to your home, the bigger the house, the grander, the more complete you can kind of put all the pieces of the puzzle together. Does that resonate with you?
It does resonate big time. It's
like we can't be there by ourselves, Tiziano. Like, it's going to be pretty boring. It'll be fun, just you and I. We could go to the beach and those sorts of things. But at the same time, it might get a little bit boring. I think we need to bring other people along with us to create this new world. Yeah.
Life wants to be in service to life. I always say to people this, Adrian, and I hope it resonates and I can give you something. If you want to make money, see how you can serve people, how you can serve life. Don't worry about making money. Worry about how many people can you serve. The more people you serve and you don't have to chase money, will be money chasing you. So serve more people. Find a way to serve as much people as you can with your gift, with your uniqueness, with your individuality. And you see that it's not actually you chasing money, but it's money chasing you. Yeah.
That's very powerful. So Tiziano, tell me, can you explain to me, like I'm a 6-year-old boy,
Yes.
what family constellations is and how it applies to my life?
Beautiful. Even if it would be 3, I want to give you the most, the easiest explanation. Family constellation allow the flow of love to flow where the flow was interrupted. So this is the explanation I made myself, but let me give you more grounding understanding. The life of an individual unfolds as their system of belonging. If there is disharmony, interruption of electricity in their system of belonging, this manifests in the life of an individual. Perhaps a person has issue with their mother, they have an interrupted movement with her, and they manifest issue with money, success, relationship. Why? Because as an archetype, their mother reflects money, success, relationship. They have an issue with their father, they have an interrupted movement with the father, just as myself, they will have issue where? With authority, because the father is the authority figure. So the energetic imprinting of Tiziano, which there is an interruption of the flow towards his father, reflect in his life. Problem with authority, police, drug dealing, criminality, that's it. So family constellation really are basic understanding, like we carry the memory of our ancestor. Epigenetics just acknowledge us. The University of Queensland only a month ago brought out a beautiful article saying that we carry in our cellular level the memory of our ancestor. So we reproduce the life of our ancestor. It's no longer a woo-woo experience. It's actually seen scientifically, quantum physically. So we can acknowledge it through a morphogenetic level, to a spiritual level, call it love, to a religious level, call it God. So family constellation, through the representation, to the understanding, we are able to bring harmony where harmony is no longer. So perhaps a person has an interrupted movement with their father, we bring a representative of their father, and we allow this person to cry out the sadness of that interrupted movement. So what we do on an emotional level, Adrian, we change their emotional imprinting, their morphogenetic imprinting. So we change their life experience. And as these days, I have thousands of witnessing feedbacks, video on my Instagram. In a few days, my new website come out. There are hundreds of actually interview of people. They had amazing life-changing experience, to a symptom level, to physical level, to relationship level, financial level. It's just amazing. I'm passionate about it. I love it. It's my biggest passion, drives, call it as you like.
Yeah. No, it shows in space. It comes through the screen in and it's beaming into my eyes. So it's beautiful. So I wanted to know from a family constellations working model or a modality, how do you penetrate the imprinting, the genetic imprinting of something that I've learned from my father or from my mother? Can you explain the process or what it does on a cellular level for me in order to accept, release part of my past learnings, whatever it may be, in order to now dissolve that persona, that part of me that I wish to delete or at least omit from my life, and then move forward to embodying something that is where I want to go from the future. I don't know if I explained that well enough, but
clearly, no, clearly, and it's clearly explained, and also I want to give you a wide understanding on that. So family constellation we can do in 2 ways. In one way, I bring a representative. For example, you had some sort of issue financially, Adrian, let's say. So what I'm going to do, I bring a representative of your father in front of you, another person who represents your father, and I await until the emotion comes up. So how do you feel towards your father? Perhaps you feel angry, Adrian. Perhaps you feel ashamed. Perhaps you feel blocked in childhood where your father left you at childcare, didn't pick you up. You felt he abandoned you. So when I bring up the emotion, and it works all the time, I release that emotion through a phrase. Perhaps that phrase is, I hate you, Dad, or I love you, Dad. I'm just like you. Whatever phrase comes about, obviously we study through systemic understanding. Through that phrase, I allow you to release that sadness. Emotionally, it is always the sadness that makes a block between the flow of love, between you and your father. So perhaps above that sadness, there is anger. Why? Because if you stay stuck in that sadness, you cannot move forward. So the body precisely brings up another emotion, second level emotion, Adrian, is called anger. Anger allows you to move forward. And if the sadness was too wide, there is a third level emotion that comes about, and it's called pride. Pride takes different form: shame, blame, frustration. My father is an idiot, is this, is that. So it's about me. It's about my capability to bring up the right phrase that allows you to go through pride, anger, and then go through the sadness, the deep sadness. Once I bring you to the sadness, I can release that sadness through you, and I can change your morphogenetic imprinting. Your morphogenetic imprinting is the imprinting of Adrian to an energetic level. So the 99.9% of Adrian is based on an energetic level, like quantum physical knowledge us. So if I want to make a change in Adrian, I must bring him to the source, to the root, to the energetic level. Once I can change that imprinting to Adrian, I can actually make a change into Adrian on a physical level. As I said before, there are two ways. One is about representation. Another one is through meditation, so through visualization. I allow you to close your eyes. And again, it's about the therapist's capability to bring up the right phrase, the right memory for you to release it. Once the right memory is brought about, you are able to release the sadness. And then it's always up to the client to tell me, let me know how it goes. But as I said, it's just magnificent. You know, it's a part of the psychotherapeutic approach called phenomenological, Adrian, because it looks very woo-woo. We study the phenomena, but it's simple. Like you can see on my Instagram, when I state a phrase, like, for example, Father, I'm just like you, or I follow you, you can see people burst in tears for like 10 minutes with 100 people witnessing. So it's not something that is very woo-woo. It's something that you can see it. It's grounded. That's it.
I love it. I totally am on board with everything that you're saying. I think that in a similar experience that I have with a now great friend of mine that I used to coach from a business level. So we met on a workshop that I was doing about social media marketing. This is going back like 7 years ago. So a similar modality where you go into a past memory, and I do love that process of revisiting that memory and that lesson that you learned at that time, because it's just it's a powerful dynamic to go back in time. And it's like time to me is not real in the sense of it's 10 o'clock in the morning and those sorts of things. I think like time to me seems very like spliced into different levels. And when I meditate, for example, I can go forward in time and ask Adrian of the future, like, what are the things that I should be looking out for doing, and which direction am I going on? Can we look back and see whether we're on the right path or wrong path, and intuitively guide myself to the future version of where I want to be. But interestingly enough, you can go in the past and relive that very moment and have a look around and see where you were and who it was about and what you were feeling, and look at the person's eyes and have a look at what they're feeling and where they're projecting on. Because when it comes to the mother and the father, it's such an interesting dynamic, because you're learning as a child from people who are already broken. So, I mean, they don't have the user manual to themselves. They're already broken, and they're broken, and they're projecting themselves from a broken record. It just never plays properly. Yeah. And so then you adopt all of those things, and then you then try and make the best sense of all of that. But also as an adult, you're projecting your own broken version of yourself. So I think I love what you're talking to, because it kind of goes back into that old version of yourself, which is still playing as like from a 5-year-old child's eyes, and it's still playing through the adult version of you.
I tell you something, Adrian, two things that you spoke about, and they bring me up something interesting. When someone, Adrian, faces to me with an emotion, I always do such a thing. I say, close your eyes. They close their eyes, and I say, how old are you when you feel this emotion? Mm-hmm. And when I say this, they always cry. I say, see, that emotion is not Adrian as today, it's Adrian as 9 years old, 8 years old. So there's a part of you that is still 9 years old. You relate to that emotion out of those ages, 9 years old. So you don't see your partner as Adrian today, but you see your partner out of that 9 years old. And just when I say that, without doing the process, Adrian, people click right away. They're like, oh, I'm not adult when I see that. Oh, exactly. And other things that you said, which is extremely interesting, is you can see your parents as broken just as myself. Because if I see my mom, she left my dad, she went with another man, my dad became violent with her. And I could say those people are broken, but I can also say this, out of their wound, I can make something good out of it. So I can be broken like them, or I can take strength from them. I can learn as my father to love in another level. Even if my partner betray me, I can learn to love my partner, understand that the betrayal comes because there is disorder in the couple. So actually the betrayal comes in help towards me, and I can restore the relationship with more order if I'm able to tap in an adult form of love. Because if I stay in a childhood form of love, I say, my partner betrayed me, my mommy went with someone else, I want my mommy all for me. Then I can go to my mom and say, your father is a bastard and this and that. Or I can say, I still love your father regardless of what he did. And I didn't heal the part of me that didn't accept my own father, because my own father was violent when I was a child. So I can take the strength from mom and dad if I look at them from a wider perspective. I step back and I look at them with what? Compassion. What is compassion? More information. So I have more information about them, so I can tap into compassion. My dad did that. My dad did that because he lost his father very young. My mom did that because her father bashed her when she was young. So then I can step forward and take something good out of it.
I think a large part of what you said there too, like it really resonates with me, particularly with my father. So there would be elements of your father which you hate, but are also in you. And you express that at some point in time, you know? And so it's almost like the person that I despised, I've also become. How did I fucking let this happen? You know, this is, you know, now I hate myself because I also hate them, you know? And so there's a real tug of war between dealing with that emotion and that inner turmoil, because a part of, in my personal experience, and it may be the same for you, is that I denied that for a large part of my life. It was like I was becoming the person that I hated or that I despised, or the parts of that person that I didn't like. And I was expressing myself as that version in my own life, consciously aware of the person that I wanted to not become like. And so that to me was an interesting way of I personally wanted to hide that part of me. I wanted to not let anyone know my dirty little secret. Does that make sense? So like holding on to a large deal of guilt and shame about myself, and it more or less expressed in a physical sense. So whether it would be emotionally like rageful, violent, you know, those sorts of things when I got angry. And it would also be on a physical sense of like, go to the gym, get big, get strong, you know, express my dominance on other people, that sort of thing. They're disrespecting others, being selfish. You know, there's a lot of things. It's in sexual, like in terms of sexuality and my sexual expression, it would come out in various ways, particularly in holding parts of myself back and feeling guilt and shame about, you know, parts of my body and, you know, those sorts of things. It's a very interesting dynamic to explore. The other part of it, and I would love you to talk to this, is because for a long time I also denied the parts of my father that I have, which are excellent, which are brilliant, which are make me the best version of myself. And that I almost felt resentment towards him for that very thing that was allowing me to be a good speaker and a good communicator and a good musician and very creative and articulate with my words and, you know, all those sorts of things. You with me?
You want to laugh, Adrian? The first exercise that I make people, particularly men, to share is tell me 3 things that you like about your father. When they tell me, I say to them, those gifts are the ones that lead you to success and to purpose. What you take from your father is who you are as a man, as an adult man, and the gift you bring into the world. So big time about what you're saying. Another things about what you said before, the first order of love of Bert Hellinger, German psychotherapist and developer of family constellation, is the order of love doesn't accept exclusion. What I exclude, I become. So if I exclude my father because he was violent, guess what? I was the most violent in my city. I was going out, literally, I've been arrested the first time, going out with a gun, with a loaded gun. Because what you refuse, you become. Because the order of love doesn't accept exclusion. Once you acknowledge that, once you include that, once you bring love into that, I understand that you did that because of, then you can actually do something different. Not too different, but something different. That's the same things I was saying before. Medical doctor who come to me and say, I want to embrace holistic approach, I hate the medical system and this and that. They become like tyrannical, just as that medical system that they are excluding. They want to exclude the medical system just as the medical system excluded them. But when they actually say, at the time that I sign up for this, I wanted to serve people. So thank you for what you have allowed me to do, serving people in their symptom. So then they can step forward and do something different.
Wow. Okay. There's a part of me that really loves to explore the child, the emotions, the learning of what emotions mean as a child, who I learned it from, and the particular application that I think is coming up for me very often now is in the application of relationships and in business, towards not so much the meaning and purpose, but a building, you know, wealth, building, attracting money, you know, those sorts of things. I think that those two dynamics have played out in the last couple of years for me personally. And I don't want to make this a coaching session about myself, but I think I'd really love to hear what your thoughts are in terms of that dynamic of, we learn certain things, certain behaviors. We learned, like, for example, what an emotion means based on what we saw it, for example, with our mother and our father together. This is what my mum did to my dad. This is what my dad did to my mum. They love each other. So obviously that means love. That equals love. And so I'm now seeking that out in a partner. I'm seeking that out in an intimate relationship. And then the same on the business side of things. You know, why do I gravitate towards a particular industry, or why do I either am really successful or not very successful in something that I love? And part of my coaching, which is why I'm asking you this question, is because a large portion of people that come to me are desiring to find their passion and purpose and meaning in life, but at the same time connect that to a vocation and a career that could be very fruitful and rewarding, right? And so I embody that in my life and lifestyle now, as do you. And so it's something that I'm interested to hear your perspective on, how you navigate, or first of all, why it happens and how you navigate that.
I'm going to be very detailed. I'm going to be very detailed about what you ask, so we can serve as much as we can in terms of this, because it's probably one of the main topics, Adrian. So first of all, success look towards the mother. It is a morphogenetic imprinting that looks towards the mother. Why? Because your first success, Adrian, is birth. So when you get out of the womb and go in the arms towards your mother, that is your first morphogenetic imprinting in regards to success. People who had cesarean, lamp, incubator, how they reflect that in life, that is an interrupted movement towards success. because their morphogenetic imprinting, it is based on it. So when they go towards success, towards their mother, there are little glitch. It doesn't work properly. Perhaps they need support of somebody else. Perhaps they sabotage themselves because when they were going towards success, they couldn't reach it. So their morphogenetic imprinting sabotage themselves unconsciously. Same things is towards a relationship. Why? Who is the first person who you relate to? Your mother. Your first contact, eyes to eyes, is towards your mother. So love relates to itself through the eyes of your mother. If you have, again, a birth that is incubator, lamp, and this and that, that is an interrupted movement you manifest in relationship, and so on in life. So the first things to look at is birth. Going forward, any morphogenetic imprinting, such as an interrupted movement, reflects into your way towards success, towards relationship. The same things is money. People speak about money, how they speak about their mother. Why? Because money reflects nurturing. So when you speak about money in such a way, I don't need money, I don't care about money. What you really say subconsciously is, I don't need my mother, she's not essential. If she's there, it's okay. If she's not, it doesn't matter. Because your mother is the first person who nurtured you. So into your morphogenetic imprinting, money look towards the mother. Instead, when you speak about purpose, about finding your gift, about serving others, that is the way of your father. It is your father who gives you direction, who gives you purpose. In fact, it's a funny thing to say, but I always explain to people. When people miss hair on the back of their head, most of the time, they have an interrupted movement with their father. Why? Because their father placed their hands here. It guides them, okay? So don't go that way. Don't go this way. So your father is your direction, your purpose. People who are good in speaking in public, their father, because they're good into expression. Their father is their expression into the world. If you want to find your purpose as a man, look up to your father. What did you learn from him? What is his way to relate? What is his gift? And even if your father didn't give you anything because he was absent, what did you learn out of that absence? That is how you bring your purpose into the world. And again, Adrian, purpose is about service. So your purpose is always in service to others. Your mission is in service to yourself, but your purpose to others. My mission is to build a beautiful house in Dover Heights, cars and this and that, but my purpose is in serving others. What I'm doing in Family Constellation is I serve other people, and I don't chase money. I attract money. Money chase me, not the way around. So this is the best understanding that I can give you in regards to business. Then we can look at any little glimpse, any doubt, any things that comes about. For example, you say something about emotion. The emotion you have towards your business, which emotion are those? The one you have towards your mother. Your business reflects your mother. People who are resistant towards their mother, they say, I want money, I want this, but their emotion towards it is anger, is judgment, is blaming, because it's the same experience they have towards their mother, and it works all the time. Any sort of experience that goes in your mother, towards your mother, you reflect into your business all the time. I've never seen it any different. Like people who are judgmental towards their mother, they generally judgmental towards a part of themselves which reflect their business, their success, money. Perhaps they judge the way they do it. They self-doubt themselves, and on and on and on.
Interesting. So when people come to you, how do you decipher where to go in the family constellations? Like do people have to be consciously aware of what's missing, what they are lacking in life, or is it just the mere fact that they are lacking direction, which is why they come to uncover you in the first place? Or do they come from a specific reason? How would you kind of diagnose, where the path should lead?
Beautiful question, and also beautiful because it brings understanding to people. You don't need to know anything. The only things you need to know is myself that I ask you, how is your life, Adrian? Once you start to share, after a minute, maximum a minute and a half, you speak in English, but I decode in Italian. You speak in English, but I decode it systemically. What does it mean? If you tell me my relationship goes this, and that, in my head, in my knowledge, I start to ask a question to you like, how's your relationship with your grandmother? How was the relationship of your mother with your grandmother? Why? Because I decode it systemically. People sometimes, they write a lot of feedback on me like, you're a bloody magician. Not really. Not really, not really. There's books. I know knowledge. I have knowledge on this. So you tell me red, yellow, and green, but I decode black, brown, and violet. So the way I decode it, I reflect back to you in another question. So it's up to me to ask you the right question. It's not up to you to worry how I understand it. People write me hundreds of emails these days. I can show you like, do I need to know this and this? And you don't need to know anything. You pay me for me to know how to decode your conversation. You pay me. It's my responsibility. The only things you gotta have, Adrian, is trust. Because the facilitator, who is representing? Your mother. People who are distrustful towards the facilitator, towards life, who are distrustful too? Towards their mother. Because it's their mother that allowed the flow of love to restore. It's the facilitator that allowed the flow of love to restore. So the facilitator always represents your mother.
Amazing. I'm gonna have to come to you for a full grease and oil change. I want like the works, the whole lot, fixed up and looking brand new for when I re-enter the world again.
I look forward to have you in person, online, as you prefer. My studio is open and you're very welcome.
I'll definitely come and see you in person. You're only like an hour away from me, so it'd be fine.
Come.
I would love that. I think what I love about you and about your teaching, and particularly because like what you mentioned before, like you have the knowledge. And so, for me, I actually didn't like school. I didn't like school for many reasons. I got bullied from the moment I started high school to the moment I left, or probably a year before I left. And so the environment was very negative, and it was very violent. It was conducive to me not wanting to learn. And I wasn't academically minded either. I didn't excel in terms of academia. But what I discovered is I love to learn and I love to teach. And those are strengths of mine that I can go back right through to even primary school, where I was mostly rebellious and not paying attention, and always like dreaming about something else. And whenever something would come up and they say, oh, we need a student to volunteer for something because we need them to direct the new kindergartens around the school and things like that, they say, Adrian, you get up and you do it. And I knew that they were just getting rid of me because I was just a delinquent child, and I wasn't paying attention anyway, or I wasn't the smartest in the class. But what that did was gave me leadership skills in order to teach people where to go throughout the school. So the reason why I'm saying all of this is because I love to learn from people like you, because it enriches my life. And in so many ways, I can better this version of myself, but then I can also teach it to others. And now your message, your ripple that starts in the middle of the pond reaches the edge of the shores, and I think that's, to me, it's a beautiful thing anyway, Tiziano. I'm not sure what you think.
I appreciate what you're saying, and I would love to add something to the value you brought in terms of academia. I always state this, Adrian, and I will state it a few times. Conformity is not wrong. It is a disservice. Conformity is not wrong. It is a disservice. Why? We are all different. Tiziano as an individuality, Adrian as an individuality, and when Tiziano brings in his individuality to the surface and Adrian his individuality to the surface, we adapt to one another and we adapt to others. When we look at academia, at school, we make ourselves in what we call conformity. So the reason why I'm not good in academic school is because I am not interested in it. But if I start to study something that I'm very interested in it, I promise you that every person in Bondi know me, because every morning at the coffee shop, I'm an hour reading books. Not because I want to be the smartest and this and that. I'm just curious. I love to study my individuality, what I like, what I'm good at. Adrian study what he's good at. So Tiziano and Adrian, they can add up something to each other and make the world a better place. But if Adrian and Tiziano, they go into conformity, into a system that is all the same, I'm going to be average, you're going to be average, and nobody of us is going to excel. So conformity is not wrong. It is a disservice towards others.
I love that. Tiziano, if people wanted to find out more about you and about your work and connect with you and things like that, where would they go?
So www.tizianosguerso.com. Instagram is @Tiziano_Sguerso. Facebook is the language of the soul, Tiziano Sguerso. These days they can find me all over Australia. I go Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, Currumbin, everywhere. I do events everywhere. Eventually I'm located in Bondi. To book work with me, there's a bit of wait, like at least a month and a half, but I see everybody online or in person. Don't need to be in person, but anywhere. And from 2024, I will start to travel internationally. So I will do the first European trip in summer 2024. So people, they follow me on Instagram. They know I do events all around the world. And I just love what I do, guys. I love to serve others. I'm extremely good in what I do, and I want to bring a worldwide change with it. So if you come, I will be honored to serve you.
Tiziano, thank you. I've loved this conversation. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to getting your book in the next year or so when it comes out. I think that's going to be something to sink my teeth in. I'm exactly like you. Every morning I'm at the cafe with a book in hand and always devouring information. So thank you so much for this conversation. It's been a mind-opening and very heartwarming conversation. So I appreciate you, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much, Adrian. I appreciate you to have me. The conversation went really light, full in flow. And so thanks again. I look forward to meet you in person.
Beautiful. Me too. Ciao.
Ciao.